Welcome back to another episode of Not Your Average Conversations.
Not your average perspectives.
Not your average black girls.
Hey, not your average black, not your average black girls, not your average black. All right, y'all, we are back. It's me, Dice, and then I have Jordan J. Nasty and Meagan Meg Money joining me per usual today. And we have a really exciting topic for y'all, but before we get into it, of course, we have to do our Not Your Average Black Girls shout out. So I will let Jordan take that away.
All right, guys. So this episode's Not Your Average Black Girl shout out goes to none other than Senator Kamala Harris. So if you all don't know, Miss Harris is an Oakland, California native, a graduate of Howard University, and an alumni of the University of California, Hastings College of Law. She is currently a United States Senator for the state of California and is the current Democratic vice presidential nominee for the 2020 election. She has been accredited with advancing such policies as the DREAM Act and progressive tax and healthcare reform. Not to mention that she is the second African American woman and the first South Asian American to serve in the United States Senate. She's pretty much an all-around badass, y'all. And if you needed any more proof of her certified status in the Not Your Average Black Girl Hall of Fame, might I refer you to any clip from the October 7th Vice President debate between Senator Harris and hashtag Fly on Pence. Although there were many notable takeaways from this debate, the most significant for me was Senator Harris's embodiment of the importance of the Black woman's voice. Although her facial expressions alone could have out-argued Fly on Pence, the most important moment was when she calmly stated, "Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking," after he continued to talk over her. I apologize. This was truly a highlight of the debate that resonated with many women around the nation, and I, for one, admired the symbolism of that moment. Black women, you are heard, and you have the right to be heard. So this Not Your Average Black Girl shout out goes to Senator Kamala Harris. We thank you for all that you've done and everything that you will continue to do. And this episode goes to you.
Oh, we got a whole episode dedication.
I know, right?
Well, y'all know. Black Girl shout out. The Not Your Average Black Girl shout out. You know what I'm saying?
I just wanted to say that these debates have been the most ratchet debates I think we have ever seen. I don't know what's going on with America these days, but we have just gotten real loose in our morals and in how we conduct ourselves on a platform.
Ghetto is the word.
You might as well have been watching a random YouTube video at this point. It doesn't even look like a professional presidential debate.
Not at all. It was a mess.
That was a little mini tangent, y'all. So let's get into our topic. Our topic for today is the PWI Experience. So for those of you who don't know, a PWI is a predominantly white institution. And to get very technical, it's basically a white institution that has more than 50% of white people that attend their school. So that could be like your university, college, even like I would even take it as far to say elementary, middle, or high school, because I know some of us, including myself, have gone to predominantly white institutions pretty much all our life. So nevertheless, but for the focus on this topic, we are going to be primarily talking about higher education. So that's colleges and universities. So I just want to start by asking, because all three of us have gone to the same college or university, and it was a PWI. And so I want to start by asking, let's start with Meagan. Meagan, why did you choose to go to a PWI?
They ain't put me on the spot, and I'm just playing. So for me, when I thought about like what college I wanted to go to, I knew that I wanted to go to a women's college. Pretty much from the start of my, I'll say, junior year in high school. I wish that it was some long drawn out story, but to be honest, I only applied to 3 schools. One of them was my backup school, and I got into the 2 that I was, the most concerned with. the school that, we all ended up at actually was my second choice. And the reason I ended up going with them, truth be told, was because they gave me like the most scholarship money, the most bang for my buck. I had this assistant principal in high school who always said, if y'all don't listen to anything I tell you as far as college advice, don't be one of those people that gets into hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt for your undergraduate degree. And, my number one choice, I was really tempted to go, but I would be lying if I sat here and, didn't address the fact that child, I would have been in some serious debt if I would have went there. So it just came down to what would be more beneficial for me financially. Um, and I liked what the school was talking about. I went to visit, and that's how I got there. That's how y'all got me.
I had no idea after all these years that you actually wanted to go to a women's college.
Yes, I did. And my reasoning was because I just felt like it was very empowering. And as y'all know, in the workplace, like women get the worst rap. Like we as women will say, oh, I'd rather work for a man than work for a woman. I hear it all the time. And I just felt like if I can get through this, like if I can come out on the upside of having gone to a women's college for 4 years, I can do anything professionally. That was my mindset. And I just wanted the best experience for me, and I thought it was empowering. I was like, yeah, I want to do that. I want to go to a women's college.
I am truly fascinated by that because I had no idea, and I definitely felt the complete opposite. All right, so Jordan, Jordan, what about you? Why did you choose to go to a PWI?
So, not quite like Meagan, but a little bit like Meagan's story. At the end of the day, they gave me the most money. I went on a athletic and an academic scholarship, so that was pretty much the thought, was go where you get the most dough. And then also too, where I grew up, my mom was in like higher education, and she was in higher education on the campus of a HBCU. And so she had basically worked out there like since I was 4. And I spent a lot of evenings and a lot of summer days with my mom on campus. And so I felt like I was raised on the campus of a HBCU and around HBCU folk, so I was a little over it. By the time it was time to go to college, I was like, yeah, I don't know if this is what I want to deal with for 4 years, because I kind of dealt with it all my life and I just wanted a change of scenery. So that's why I was very impartial to a PWI. Like I didn't really care one way or the other, but I will say once I got to the PWI, not casting, any shame on on the PWI that we went to, because I definitely appreciate it for what it was and for the experiences that it gave me. And I know that I would not have gotten those experiences anywhere else. It did make me long for the things that I had once taken for granted with the HBCU experience. So I'm glad I went, and I'm glad for what it showed me and what it taught me.
All right. Okay. So I'm just going to say the only common thread in all of our stories, including mine, which I'm about to tell, is that I only went to this school because they gave me the most money. um, so same here. I only went because they gave me the most money. I never, ever, ever in a million, gazillion, billion years thought I would go to a women's college ever. Had no interest, no desire. I definitely thought I was going to go to like some big school and just be all out there, probably be somebody's hoe. I just really, really thought I was gonna be out like that, y'all. Thought I was gonna be partying like crazy. I was very wrong about what my college life was like. So basically, I chose a PWI.
She said, I'm sorry. She said, I thought I was going to be out here. Go ahead, Dice.
I thought I was gonna be living my best life, okay? Because I just saw these college experiences on TV, and I was like, "Well, that's gonna be me one day." But no, y'all, it did not happen like that at all. The school we ended up at, it low key like sucked me in because I had visited, similar to Meagan, I'd only applied to maybe like 3 or 4 schools, and I had visited like maybe my top 2. And the school I thought I was going to go to did not wow me at all. Like I felt like they had a reputation of being like a good school, so I felt like they were like, oh, we don't have to do anything to like get people in the door. Like they're just going to show up. Whereas I feel like the college that we ended up at, they really went out of their way. Like they were trying to make you feel welcome. You could tell like they took their recruiting seriously. Like they were like, we want you to go to our school. Like, so on top of getting more money from them, it was just like they had a sense of community that I didn't get from any other school that I visited. And that's when I was like, okay, this might actually be for me. Like I might actually be going to a women's college of all places. But nevertheless, that's pretty much it. I'm going to be honest, and I know we're going to get real deep into all of this. I did not consider really any HBCUs because number one, majority of HBCUs did not offer my major. I'm sorry, they just didn't. I majored in fashion design and fashion merchandising. And I think at the time there was only like, let me just say this, for places I could actually go to, there was only like one or two, and they only offered like merchandising.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, this isn't going to work for me. And then number two, I don't know about you guys, Meagan and Jordan, but I had always heard like somewhat negative things growing up about HBCUs, with the exception of like Howard, right? So it was like, other than that, like people around me kind of spoke negatively about them and were like, you probably shouldn't go to an HBCU. So that's a little side note, but
Oh,
nevertheless, that's my
wow.
whole story.
No, I think it's the opposite for me and Jordan. I know we both grew up around HBCUs, like
Mm-hmm.
Savannah State. Like, shoot, man, I be homecoming, I be right there. I feel like I'm alumni with the rest of them. Just, but I mean, that's
Yeah.
what I grew up with. So, like, homecoming week, like high school, middle school, I'm doing homecoming week stuff too. I mean, the parade, I'm at the parade in high school. I'm in the parade, like that's, and I think I can relate to what Jordan was saying about where like that was what I knew.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like, obviously it's different when you're a student, but I think when I was choosing colleges, it just was like, well, I know the HBCU culture. That's all I've grown up with. I want to experience something different. And Dice, you made a good point about major. At the time, I had intentions of going into college, choosing to be like pre-law or studying some sort of conflict resolution or something like that. And the school I was looking at for my first choice didn't have that option. So I was like, well, can't go there ultimately. And they're not
Mm-hmm.
giving enough money. So
Yeah, that's another thing. And also, I don't know, I guess maybe just to tie the whole like concept of whatever school you choose. One thing I learned, and I feel like you're going to learn this no matter what school you go to, is that college is what you make it. And so I feel like with where our school was located, it was kind of like perfect distance from like Atlanta to where you could be out if you wanted to like take that initiative to be out, but it wasn't to the point to where it was like all consuming, like to the point where you could really get caught up in some stuff and miss class and get lost in the sauce. Although some people did, but like, I don't know, I just felt like it was a good balance, between that traditional like the wild party lifestyle that most college kids envision when they go off to college, and then still getting something reserved and maintained and controlled if you still need that structure in order to, be the most successful on an academia level when it comes to college. And so I feel like our school could give you that balance if you were someone who saw the opportunity for that and took advantage of that. And I kind of feel like with us being Greek, we had the perfect avenue to experience both. And I like, not to make this like a Greek, podcasty show, because that's not what it is, but we all crossed at different points in our college career. So I was a freshman, Meg was a sophomore, and then Dice was a senior. So obviously Dice didn't get to take advantage of it, as long and as much as I did per se. But nonetheless, to be able to have like that Greek outlet while we were at a PWI, I always tell people it kind of helped me get a little bit of the HBCU experience, even though I went to a PWI, because we was always around Black folks, like we were always with other BGLOs doing what BGLOs do. So it was cool, and it was really interesting to have that duality and that dynamic of the Black Greek letter organization experience, Thursday through Sunday, and then come back and kick it at the PWI in a controlled atmosphere Monday through Thursday. So
Yeah, that is interesting. Obviously, I can't speak to that as much because I, by no fault of my own, was not able to cross until my senior year. So I didn't. My experience at a PWI is probably going to vary a little bit from theirs. In terms of,
Mhm.
I really didn't have that sort of outlet, as far as really getting to mingle with fellow Black people on that level. Um, I think I more so had to just do it the old fashioned way where you just try to make friends and like, make sure that you have like a good clique of people around you that understand what's going on with you or whatever. So to dig deeper into the topics, I would like to know, what are some of the positives to going to a PWI? Like, do y'all feel like there are any?
Definitely. And I guess I'll just jump out in the deep end and y'all pull me back if I start to drown. But I'm gonna just say the first one. As somebody who did, like go on to a HBCU after my PWI. The first one is we got them direct deposits on time. And I mean just timely. Okay. We got those refund
Ah,
checks. That's what I'm trying to say. They were direct deposits. Let me just say, y'all, the refund check business is a hustle. Okay. But it's a very important hustle. And as students, we need them on time and we would prefer direct deposits. And so that was just a little known luxury that I had taken for granted as a casualty at my PWI until I went to my HBCU and I was like, oh, like this is what we doing? On top of the fact that just everything you needed to do could be done online at a PWI. And I'm not speaking for all HBCUs. I'm just speaking, from my experience, but the processes and the procedures are just a little bit more well known. I hate to even do it like that, but I feel like Dice, whenever people say, oh, don't go to a HBCU, or if they have anything negative to say about a HBCU, it's never from the aspect of the community. It's never from the aspect of the level of, like education that you'll get. It's more so from like the aspect of like business and the
yeah.
processes and the procedures.
That's
Yeah.
what I was gonna
So,
say is I've never heard someone say the reason they left like an HBCU or chose not to go or whatever, they were frustrated with their experience. I've never heard anyone say it was about the culture, the education. Like you said, it is always about, waiting in line at financial aid or, oh, I did take this class, my credits are messed up. It was always, like you said, Jordan, one of, just the process of things.
mhm.
And I think I don't feel like that's bad to say that. I do feel like I think we talked about this on our very first episode. I feel like as Black people, we have to be comfortable telling one another where we fall short in comparison to other people. And I think it's important for us to speak out and say, hey, yeah, that probably is one of the reasons some people don't want to go to HBCUs. They don't want to deal with, you know, I guess the untimeliness that a lot of people have dealt with. So
Mhm.
I'm right there with you. I've
Um,
heard that a lot.
One of
Mhm.
the speaking of the drawbacks and what I have been told, since I'm the only one who was really pushed to not go to an HBCU, and I think it could vary depending on where you're from and where you live and what the reputation are of those local HBCUs as well. I wouldn't say that the local HBCUs in my hometown were that like popular or had a positive reputation. I feel like a lot of the schools in my area, they at one point were like, the shit, basically. Like at one point it was like, yeah, yeah, like my mom was young or, a few generations after her. But once it came time for me, those schools had really lost a lot of their positive attributes. And I know some of that is not by their own doing. Sometimes you just don't get the funding as an HBCU in order to keep that sort of thing going. But I know one of the biggest things people used to say about why I shouldn't go is that a lot of those schools, and I'm only speaking for the schools in the area at the time, a lot of those schools were known for accepting you if you had like poor grades from high school or poor test scores. And to me, that goes both ways, right? Because there are some advantages to schools accepting people who have lower grades and lower test scores, because I'm not a believer that because you did poorly in high school that you're going to do poorly in college. I don't think the two correlate. However, I think people were like, you don't want to be associated with those types of people, quote unquote. I know it sounds bad. I'm just telling y'all what I was told, but they were just like, you want to be better than that. You don't want to be associated with, oh, I just got into the school because it was the only school that would take me because of my grades or whatever. But nevertheless, that's just my extra 2 cents on what I was told growing up.
Well, Dice, to, just to, I don't want to say combat that, but in response to that, and like I said, as someone whose mom taught on the campus of a HBCU, she's the graduate of, or HBCU graduate, and so is my brother. HBCU history is just something that she's always been pretty fond of. Black history is something she's been pretty fond of, if y'all didn't already pick up on that from the previous episode. But nonetheless, the one thing she always instilled in me is HBCUs were created to give access and opportunity to African Americans. And so that could be one of the byproducts of why the scores, the high school grades and the testing scores were so low when it comes to a lot of the students that they allow in, because as people of color, it's been said that we don't test well. We don't really do good on standardized testing, which is true. It's backed up by statistics. And I also would accredit some of our performance ability to the white folks that create the exams. But like I said, we'll say that for another podcast. But nonetheless, that's why you see that happening for a lot of the HBCUs, is because we are trying to provide those opportunities for people from our community to put the work and the experience back into our community. It's kind of like that quote from, I believe it's like W.E.B. Du Bois, I think, when he says like only 10% of people have the opportunity to go and get educated. And so it's on that 10% of the Black community that gets educated to put their knowledge back into it. That's the whole point. We're supposed to lift each other up. And so that's why HBCUs had that, I guess that connotation, is because, yes, like statistically we don't test well, statistically we don't perform that great in school, but that doesn't mean that you should be denied opportunity from these white state institutions. Here is a whole HBCU created just for you to come into an academic arena, excel, get exposure to things that you may not have had exposure to while you were in high school, like a counselor who understands what it's like for you at home, and a counselor who understands how to help you and communicate with you, and therefore can put the work back into you so you could put the work into your schoolwork and, go to New York, become that big time broker or accountant for that big old accounting firm, and, lift your whole family up out of generational poverty and have chances that you would have never had. So I think that's just, one of the ways where the same set of facts can be told differently to different groups or to different children, because my mom was telling it to me like that, whereas people just see, oh, well, they're allowing people with low test scores in, and you just take that and kind of run with it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think those are all very valid points. I also want to add that a lot of times the scores are bad for Black people because of the lack of access to proper education, which is something I didn't even realize until I became a full-blown adult out here, that there are so many kids who don't have access to good schools and have to fight to get into good schools, to the point where some people, have to lie about their address and all sorts of things just so they can get into the better schools. So it's not shocking, or at least not completely shocking, that, yeah, some Black kids or other minorities are doing poorly on these tests and in school because of the lack of education. But as you said, that's a whole nother branch of this topic. Anyways, Meagan, did you have anything else that you wanted to add to all this stuff that Jordan and I just said?
Well, I mean, I think Jordan said a good piece. And, a lot of what she was saying was very true. I will say, Dice, in reference to what you were always told, there are a lot of HBCUs who operate under like a certain system to where they do give additional opportunities to people who might score below a certain point or whatever. But I think that just speaks to what Jordan was talking about, the reason they were designed to begin with, about offering opportunity. And I was just going to say, like, I feel like I would be so negligent to not mention this, but y'all know, like, my job, or for our listeners, I said in our first episode, I'm a school psychologist. I can 100% tell you, like, as someone in the education field who has to, like, work with children who have learning disabilities or intellectual disabilities or whatever, these tests are 100%, majority of them, not designed with us in mind. Black children statistically have verbal skills that don't even match up to white children. And a lot of these tests, unfortunately, they're very verbally loaded, or require a lot of verbal comprehension skills that Black people statistically don't have because of what you were saying, lack of exposure to education, lack of resources. And so a lot of the times it might appear that they don't know as much or a lower IQ or whatever, but really it's that no, well, this test is verbally loaded with a language that has not been taught to them. And when I say a language, I mean like politically correct, the King's English, however you reference speaking, correctly. That is what a lot of these tests are loaded with. And so all of that plays a part. All of that plays a part into how we're perceived. But I did want to kind of like get back to what you asked us originally about some of the positives. I definitely think that like I was always kind of impressed, especially for it to be a smaller college. I was impressed with like the many different majors and minors and concentrations and everything that our school offered. Just from doing my research over the years, a lot of schools have a very like, you know, tight ship on what they offer. It's not very broad. You have to have something specific or either very generic that you're interested in. And I was always really impressed with that. I felt like that was a pro. I felt like it encouraged you to like figure out who you were, get as specific or as not specific as you need to. But I loved that the opportunity was there. And I mean, hey, we all mentioned money. At the end of the day, one of the perks is that we were at the PWI, we were all minorities. That got us more money. At HBCU, I don't think they're really getting minority scholarships like that because they all minority. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I think that's a pro as well. And as far as specifically positive things about our university, I can save that for later in the conversation. But I think that I will say this. I think exposure, especially today in time, is very important. And I will say that I think as a Black person, if you grew up only around Black people, all you know is the Black experience. And you go into the real world, whatever your profession or entrepreneurship goals are, it's going to be very hard because you are the minority to only ever walk your road in life and only work with Black people. And so I do think that going to a PWI also, helps to broaden your horizons, get yourself more cultured with some other people's lack of culture. Learn how to deal with, discrimination, underestimation, all of those things so that you can be prepared when you get out in the real world. And I think that that's another positive. I think it can teach you how to be prepared.
That's the beauty of being uncomfortable, really with anything, but also, in context of what we're talking about, when you are a minority, when you are maybe the only Black person in the classroom or whatever, it does put you in a totally different environment, a totally different position. And here in America, it prepares you for the world. You know what I'm saying? Where, as minorities, we are used to being the only minority in a space. Is not that uncommon for us in America. And so it's like being at a PWI does kind of help you navigate those waters a little bit better. So you're not out there like, wait, why am I around these white folks? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you kind of learn how to, sadly, but you learn how to play a part. You learn how to kind of blend in, which can be a negative or a positive, but that's just one of the things you learn. I do want to say, as I think we've covered pretty well, a major positive for the PWIs and something I hope changes in the future for HBCUs if they continue to be around is that they have a variety of majors and minors, for you. Whereas
Yeah.
I feel like that's definitely a major drawback to an HBCU if they don't have, like, for example, like some of the more creative majors, like what I wanted to do, which was fashion. So it's like, it would be nice, but they just don't have it. Jordan, is there anything else positive wise you'd like to add?
No, I think you all covered it.
All right. All right, y'all. So let's get into the negatives, which we kind of touched on some of them already. So I know for me, definitely feeling the need to blend in is a two-sided coin. Sometimes it was positive, sometimes it was a negative. But nevertheless, I just I feel like as a minority, and especially as a Black person, too often we have to put on these faces all the time. We got to change up the way we talk. We got to change up the way we behave, in front of white people. I'm just going to keep it frank, because we are too, for lack of a better word, afraid to be ourselves. We're afraid that if we do act like how we would act around our Black friends or Black colleagues, that we might, be looked at differently, or it might prevent us from getting certain opportunities and stuff like that. And it also, in a way, pits us against each other, where you have some Black people who are, Black, loud, proud. They don't care who they're around. But then some of us are looking at them like, girl, you being ghetto. Like, you need to stop. You know what I'm saying? And so we can't, trying to find that balance, I think, is really difficult for us as a race, because we don't want to, pigeonhole ourselves, but at the same time, we don't want to not be true to who we are. So I think right now in 2020, we're really trying to have those conversations about why. Why do we feel the need to blend in with, the white people and, change who we are and not be ourselves? So, anyways, that's one of my negatives. You ladies are welcome to the floor.
Well, I'll just say, and this is not per se speaking personally, but I just remember like I was about to say 1L, but my freshman year of undergrad, I had one of my best friends from high school. She went to a larger PWI in the state where we're from. I'm from Alabama, for the listeners who don't already know. And I just remember her talking about like whenever they would see other Black people on campus, it would be like, hey, you like, where you at? Where you going? Where you from? And then they'd be like, oh, like, let's meet up at the BSA, or like, let's meet up at the African American Student, Union, or whatever they had for them. And so I do kind of feel like that's one of the negatives of definitely a larger PWI. Like I said, we didn't really have to deal with that because our school was just a mile wide. So at some point you were going to see everybody. But that need to be together, like that need to see other Black people and to convene and congregate with other Black people, it's it's just a little bit harder to satisfy, I kind of feel like, with a PWI, and especially a larger size PWI, because you are the minority. And imagine being a minority in a school that has like 15,000 student population, which I kind of feel like that's a large number, but you know what I'm saying, like an 11,000 student population, like I can only imagine what that
You're
must
like
be
a
like.
speck.
Yeah, you are a spec. And so it didn't really
Mhm.
dawn on me until she said it. And she said, we'd be like, who is that? Where they going? Like, if it wasn't like a football player or, like a Black person on one of the bigger known, like, athletic teams at the university. So I can only imagine what that must be like. So I do feel like that's one of the negatives, is not really being able to congregate or come across as many people that look like you as often as you may like, or honestly not realizing that you haven't seen somebody that looks like you until you see somebody that looks like you. So yeah.
Meagan.
Yeah, I just was sitting here thinking like about, negatives. Y'all definitely, I think, immediately went for like the really good ones. I think that, so I have to be honest, I've never felt like unsafe, but we also all went to college kind of before things got crazy. And that sounds weird just saying that because we're not even old, but I do feel like the world was different when we went to college, or at least when we started out. I do. I will say that I think like coming across people, for me, I feel like I came from a very cultured, like very balanced childhood. And I will say something that was I guess maybe a culture shock for me was the fact that college in itself, being around different types of people was a culture shock for some of the people that we went to college with. Like, I met several girls who, being at our college was kind of their first experience of, you know, having a Hispanic friend, having a Black friend, because they lived in these small towns where there were no Black people. And so that was like, what for me? Because hello, growing up in a city where they have some of everything, I was just like, what? What you mean you never been around Black people? Like, how is that possible? And so I would say that that's maybe one of the negatives for people who are uncomfortable by that fact, navigating your way around people who have never been around anyone like you before. That sometimes requires some teaching. that sometimes requires some correcting because there's, an ignorance factor there. They don't know what's offensive because they've never had to consider you before. They've never had to think about you. And I think that can be a negative for some people it's a positive. For some people it's like, oh, that's my opportunity to correct the world, teach people. But I think if it, makes you uncomfortable, if you're someone who's easily offended, it can definitely be a negative, because who wants to feel like they're always in teacher mode? That's honestly one of the main ones that kind of stuck out to me. Like the negative is like, you don't know, on any given day, you're going to have to teach somebody pretty much like about Black culture.
Let me tell y'all something. And I'm jumping the gun because we ain't story time yet, but this flows nicely, so I don't want to leave it for later and forget it. Excuse me. So I don't know if y'all two know, y'all might know about the incident I had at our college with the security officer. So I'm just going to tell this story real quick because it's a perfect example of, people being ignorant, not understanding Black people, whatever, right? So long story short, I used to go into the classroom late sometimes. Like we had access to certain buildings late at night. And I'm talking like you had until like maybe midnight to be in certain buildings or whatever doing work. And so my senior year, I was a fashion design major, so I had to do my senior collection. And I was really busy, y'all. I was taking, I don't even know, I had a crazy amount of credit hours. And I was a double major, and then I had to have my clothing line ready, et cetera, whatever. So I was also working a part-time job. So I would get off work at like 9 o'clock and then go straight to the classroom so I could finish, working on my collection. So the security at that time was awful. They were lazy. I'm just going to be point blank about it. They were lazy. You would call them, ask them to come let you into a building. They would give you a hard time about it, give you a bunch of grief because they didn't want to get up and do it. And so that happened that night. I called. The security officer basically was like, oh, he's kind of hemming and hawing or whatever and trying to tell me that, I don't have access to the building at this time of night. And I was like, I do have access. There was an email sent by so-and-so who was like, she was like the secretary to the dean of the department or something like that. So she had sent out an email basically saying students are allowed to be in this building until such and such time. And so he finally comes out. He does something out of the ordinary, which was ask me for my student ID, which they normally don't do because they don't care. He asked me for my student ID, already starting off wrong. And he wrote my name down again, starting off wrong. They never did that. And so I had said to him, I said something like, I apologize if I came across rude or whatever. I said that wasn't my intention. I said I was really just trying to get, my work done because I have a lot going on. He was like, okay. So I was in there. Mind you, when I walked in that room, another student was currently in that room working on her collection as well. So, we were about to finish up. So he comes back at exactly midnight. Again, unusual, y'all, because normally they don't even come back and check at that time. He comes back and was like, oh, yeah, I just want you guys to know it's time for y'all to leave and da-da-da-da. So I was like, whatever. So I just feel like he was just being, basically a dick that day. So, y'all, within 24 hours, I had received an email summoning me to I don't know any other way to put it, but it was called honor court. I don't know what other schools may call it, but it's basically whenever somebody feels like you violated one of the school's rules or whatever crap, they send you to honor court, right? So I was like, what the hell is this about, right? So come to find out, this same security guard, I guess, was in his feelings because I made him get up and do his job. So he called himself reporting me or whatever. And so I get called into this office. Mind you, I did not end up actually going to honor court, but I did go into like one of the offices for the people who were in charge. Let's put it that way. And, she was asking me all these questions. She was like, well, he said that you cursed him out. Y'all. First of all, if I curse somebody out, I'm going to remember cursing somebody out. So there's no reason for me to lie. If y'all can't tell, I'm very straightforward. So I would own up to anything that I said. And so I flat out said to the lady, I was like, that's a lie. I never cursed him out. I said, he may not have liked my tone, which I did apologize for. I said, but I never cursed him out. So what's even funnier is the actual dean of my department was on the email because they CC everybody. They just a big snitch, y'all. They CC everybody. And so the dean was on there, could see what happened. And ironically, this is one of the few incidents where I feel like a white person comes to help you out. She was like, this would have been avoided if he would have just let her in the building. And I was like, exactly. So I still end up going to, I guess, like a truncated version of honor court, not the official one. It was just like me, him, one of the higher ups or whatever, and the manager of security at the time. Y'all, I'm in there pissed off because I didn't know. I was basically ambushed. I did not know that I was going to be in a room with this man. So I was pissed off about that. Sitting there in this room, and this man, he got the nerve to be looking at me, smiling, talking about something hi. So I said, hi, real dry, just like that. And so they basically asked me to go over what happened. So I told them. So they were like, well, if you don't feel like you did anything wrong, why did you apologize? I said, I told y'all I apologized because I knew that I had a tone to my voice because I was irritated because I had so much work to do, which I told him that night. I said, I never cursed this man out or whatever. And so the manager going to say to me, mind you, was an older white lady, you don't have to yell about it. So I said, ma'am, I'm not yelling. This is how I talk. So again, going back to what we were saying about the ignorance, right? So basically in the end, we were going in circles because he was so adamant to hold on to this lie about me cursing him out. I said to him straight up, I said, look, if you feel like I cursed you out, I apologize because I don't remember doing it. I said, but I would think I'd remember that. But if you're offended or you feel like I cursed you out, I apologize for cursing you out if that's how you feel. And I left it at that and I left the room. I was just like, I'm not fixing to do this with y'all. Like, you know what I'm saying? So anyways, that was my little story, y'all. But that's just a great example of ignorance and how they automatically assume as a Black person, you're up to no good. They automatically assume as a Black woman, you're angry or you're yelling because you're getting your point across and they feel some sort of way. They don't like to be called out on shit that they're doing wrong. So it's easier for them to say, oh, no, you're just angry. Oh, you just got attitude. Oh, you're just being ghetto. No, what y'all did was wrong. Do your job. And I, as a student, shouldn't have to tell you how to do your job. Anyways, that's my 2 cents, y'all. I'm done.
Well, I got 2 things to say. One, me and Meagan was on honor court, right?
Yeah, I know. I do know.
Was we were in? My senior year, like I was in charge, and Jordan's
Same
senior
here.
year, she was in charge.
Same here. We were both the chair justices.
It never got that far. So
that's really funny. But well, I guess I kind of have 3 things to say because I do want to make another point about just the PWI experience. And I will say this is more narrowly tailored to our PWI. And I've said this to Meagan, I've said this to Dice, especially like right after Dice told me that story for the first time. One thing I will always say about our PWI is that I felt like they were a bit overly involved in like legit worldly situations. So I understand when there is there's a duty, I guess, as like the faculty, the staff, if you live on campus, as campus security to provide protection to the students in the buildings and all that good stuff. I get that. But I also feel like as the people who like cultivate our experience and that experience being undergrad, and that's where you come and grow and learn about yourself, there is a certain level of hands off that I feel needs to happen in order for someone to truly like grow up and mature and learn about themselves. And there was just a little bit too much hand holding, in my opinion. And in this situation, I feel like this was a situation that campus honor court higher ups, to the point to where like he was saying like, you disrespected him. They should have been involved, but they should not have been involved to that extent. Like there's just no reason your story should have included all those levels of faculty engagement, because at the end of the day, he had a job. You as a student had a right to be in the building that he felt like he had the duty to protect. It was a situation that happened between you and him, and it really should have been resolved between you and him. And as the dean said in your story, it would have been resolved had he just done his job, and that was allow you, a student, into that building, a place that you have the right to be in, to do work that you have the right to do. And I just kind of feel like there was just too much hand holding and too much back and forth about your conduct and not enough about what he was paid to do and what he was contracted to do as an employee of that school. And so I do speaking, as a former student or as an alumni and a former member of, well, I won't even go that far, but just speaking from my personal experiences, I do remember plenty of instances where there was just over involvement in the actual conduct of the students on that campus. And I feel like it was to the point of like nitpicky. And if you control so much about a person at this age, when are they allowed to control themselves? When are they allowed to learn on their own and make those mistakes for themselves and truly learn from it? And I feel like those were the moments that we were a bit deprived of, that a student would have gotten at a regular, not a regular, but like a larger school, PWI or HBCU. You get the chance to make those mistakes, have those, you know, if you want to say fun, but have those wild nights, have those moments, and not worry about faculty or professor or, you know, staff engage or honor court engagement as a repercussion of. And then the last statement I want to make in reference to white ignorance, because I wrote it down in my little note section. I just got a quick little story too. And, you know, I know we're going to slide into story time, but I think y'all know, I was on the athletic team at the school that we went to, and I will never forget, y'all. There were only 4 Black girls on a team of about, we'll say like 20 to 25. It was, I'm not going to tell y'all what team I was on, but anyway, y'all can go look on Facebook and figure it out. But there were only like 4 Black girls, and one of them, she like was from those parts, so she was more like them than like us. The 3 of us were not from there, so we did not, you know, we did not cave to the culture around there. You know, we were very much Black girls. And so I'll never forget this one practice. I just happened to go to practice with makeup on this day. I can't remember what I had been doing on campus or in school for me to have on makeup when I went to practice, but nonetheless, I had on makeup. And one of the white girls, one of our teammates that I was pretty cool with, she was sitting next to me, and I guess she was just kind of looking at me. And then she makes the statement. She goes, "Oh my gosh, your lashes are so long." Could have just left it at that, y'all. But this girl proceeds to say they're not all short and nappy like most Black girls. Y'all, clutch my pearls. Eyebrows went to my hairline, because I've just never even heard all those words put together in a sentence about eyelashes.
Especially in reference to lashes.
Yes, I have just never even heard that type of offending statement ever, just, you know, said like that. And then it was like in the form of a compliment. I was just very confused by the moment, but like taken aback, like mouth just, you know, wide open. And I was looking at her like, "What did you just say?" And she was like, "Yeah, like your eyelashes are so long. They're not all short and nappy." And I was like, literally, do not ever say that again. I was like, lashes cannot be nappy. I don't even understand what you were talking about. But I literally was just like, do not ever say that again. And I mean, y'all, we're like 18, 19, 20. Like, what the heck? So when Meagan was talking about these girls coming from small towns to where they never engaged with Black people before, and I remember you made a statement about sometimes like they don't understand maybe what's offensive because they've never offended anyone. Don't care. They know the term nappy is offensive. That girl knew exactly what she was doing. And I don't know if she just thought that I was going to, you know, be kikiing and like, "Oh girl, well, thank you for giving me my compliment." But no, you know, I was like, this is not what's happening. And I was taken aback. I was really taken aback. And I was like, literally, how ignorant do you sound? Like, you just sound like straight ignorance. And for me to be from Alabama, I have never had a white person say that to me. So I was like, what?
Yeah, no, that's insane.
Would have been some tussling at practice is all I can say.
That is insane. And y'all, it's funny because all 3 of us are from the South. I never stated where I'm from, but I'm from South Carolina. And I think it's really funny when you go to other southern states and they swear that your state is probably more racist than their state, and it's 9 times out of 10 the opposite way around. Like, I'm like, a lot of those states that y'all swear are like so inclusive and, you know, so open and accepting of minorities, a lot of them are not. Like, I'm just like, I come from the dirty South. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like I have never experienced some of the things in the dirty South that I experienced going to other parts of the South that would not even be remotely considered dirty. They barely Southern.
Same.
And I've had really bad experiences. So I just don't need y'all to get a little more cultured in that, because it's not the way y'all think it is. But anyways, Meagan, did you have any stories you'd like to add about the ignorance?
See, I secretly was hoping that you would like be caught up in the conversation and not ask me that. And let me tell you why. Because, you know, we had the episode about what were we talking about, like toxicity and stuff. Y'all was on me talking about I ain't experienced nothing toxic and blah, 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 blah.
So all your experiences were great. That's what you finna tell us?
And I've been thinking about this for a very long time.
She had like a whole 15 minutes to come up with a story.
No, before this, honestly, like yesterday, I was sitting here thinking, I was like, okay, what can I talk about? And let me just say this. I think that, like, for what it's worth, I understand 100%, like y'all know this because y'all know me. I understand 100% that there are so many of us who had things happen, at our college that probably shouldn't have happened or that could have gone different. I understand that everyone did not have their best experience, but for whatever reason, I mean, I don't know, we all have a different path, but for whatever reason, my path was just a little bit different. I honestly don't have, like, unless I just can't remember, which means it wasn't that significant if I can't remember it, because as Jordan can tell you, I don't be forgetting, but I honestly just cannot come up with any, like, story, any memory of where I felt like I was wronged, or like any examples of, like, white ignorance. I just can't. I mean, you have some of your typical things, like, when Obama was running. I can't remember who was running against him, McCain, or not McCain, but who was running against him the second time. I don't know. Unimportant. But you had people like with the bumper stickers and stuff, or with the t-shirts, and like you were there at that time, Dice, and so I know that you can speak to like how there was like a little bit of tension or whatever, but no one ever like blatantly said anything. Nothing ever happened to me. No one ever said anything. Like, if they felt away, they never said it in my presence. No one said anything offensive. Can't believe that black man won. Like, none of that ever happened in my presence. So
Meagan basically saying that them bitches wasn't brave enough
and
to come to her.
And you know what? I think that it's just about, like, obviously people decide to disrespect and try who they want to try. Like, it don't be having nothing to do with you. But I will say that, like, Jordan spoke to this earlier about how the experience is what you make it. And I think that we can all agree that we probably all at least know or knew one Black person at our university who spent their whole time there, spent their 4 years there, graduated, but was a negative Nan to a T about the experience the entire way through. And there are pros and cons to every university. Are there things that I think could have been better? Absolutely. But I think that for me, it was a matter of, like, I'm here. I'm not interested in doing a bunch of university hopping and taking 7 years to graduate. I'm going to make this experience the best thing that I can make it. And I think that I did that very early on, freshman year, gotten SGA, like, gotten this, gotten that, became an RA my second year. And so I'm saying this to say, like, it's not like I think, like, oh, I'm so big and bad, nobody would never try me. But I do think, I'm just going to keep it real. I was in a lot of stuff, and we all know that at our university, the better relationship that you had with some of the higher ups, like, admin people or whatever, across the board, kind of the more respected that you were. I was on a lot of executive boards. I was in a lot of organizations, Spring 13, we crossed. And I think for me, just calling it like it is, I do feel like if, in fact, there ever was a time that anybody wanted to try me or wanted to get disrespectful, I think they knew that the odds would, like, not be in their favor. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that they knew that it's just like, yeah, I'm not going to win this one. Just because, I mean, the disadvantage of a small college is things can tend to get a little bit cliquish, you know what I mean? And when people would fall out or when big things would happen, everyone would learn about it. And so I'm saying that to say that I think that, like, if anyone ever really wanted to push it, like, and really try something serious, one, everything gets out, so it's going to get out. I think that the reality was, it's just like, okay, well, I probably won't come up winning on this one. Like, I probably won't come out being,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, the hero of this story. People will probably be against me. But I'm just gonna say this, and like, I hope it doesn't come off the wrong way, because I don't know what kind of people listen to us. I don't know how many white people listen to us. But I will say that I think that, and I think y'all both operate, just I think y'all both just have like this aura about you as well. But I just think people move different around you when they respect you and when they can pick up on the fact that you don't take any mess. And I do think
Mm-hmm.
that I made it my business to carry that about me while we were in college. Like, yeah, we're cool, we can be friends. I like you. Let's go to the Mexican place. I almost called the restaurant by name, child. We trying not to identify the university, y'all. But we could go out to eat, we can go on trip, we can do whatever you want to do. But keep it cute with me, like at the
Yeah.
end of the day. But yeah, I was hoping you didn't ask me, because I was like, dang, they gonna roast me when I say
Yes,
I don't have
we
no negative
know.
stories. But I don't. I don't.
It's Megan's perfect life, you guys. That's
Whatever.
just what it is. Just
Whatever.
another excerpt from her perfect life experiences.
No.
Uh,
But you know what? I will tell you this though. When I went to grad school, I I prayed. Like, I prayed for a very positive experience. I prayed for an experience with no hurdles or nothing to deter me, because I'm just keep it real, y'all. I didn't want to go to school. Like, I don't think people be realizing like who actually wants to go to school. If I could have like made me some millions without going, I would have did it. But I didn't want to go to school. I was like, nah, like, God, please don't give me any obstacles. Please don't give me any hurdles. Please make this just a smooth journey for me, because if it ends up being too hard, I don't know that I'll have like the determination to finish. Like, that's just how I was feeling at the time when I went to grad school. And I think things happen for a reason. I mean, maybe God knew something I didn't know. Maybe he knew that if I got into a deep, I know a lot of people ended up leaving sometimes because of like honor court things. Maybe he knew if I got into something real deep with honor court, I would be like, bump this, I don't need this school, I'm out of here. You know what I'm saying? And might have transferred to the wrong place. I don't know. But I say all that to say I'm sorry for the listeners. I cannot share any
yeah.
negative
Yeah, Megan, we
stories.
got it.
I'm sorry.
So anyway, let's move on. Okay, y'all. So lastly, to wrap up this topic, just real quick, what do y'all think the impact has been on minorities for going to the HBCU? I'm sorry, for going to PWIs. Lord Jesus. What do y'all think the impact has been on minorities for going to PWIs? Like, do y'all think overall it has been good, bad? Just, real brief.
I think Megan kind of said it, or we all said it earlier. Obviously, there's like an access to more majors. I do think that there is a certain access or aspect of access to more experience and opportunities, funding, obviously, and you do stand the chance of interacting with a lot more people that you normally would not. Get a chance to interact with in your local community or on the campus of a HBCU. All kinds of transfer students, international students, people from different socioeconomic backgrounds, all walks of life, and people who are pursuing all kinds of avenues in life. So you do stand the chance of being in a larger, thought incubator and, just being exposed to a lot more. So I think that's one of the positives or the
With that
impacts.
being said, just to kind of segue properly, do you feel like all the things that we've mentioned, because like you said, we kind of covered the impact pretty good. Do you feel like it has helped us or hurt us to be a minority at a PWI?
Um, I feel like today those things have not hurt us, but the culture outside of the PWI that now transfers or seeps into the PWI experience is what's hurting us. And I mean that just goes without being, beat into the ground. We all know what's going on in America right now. And so I think that's the part that's hurt us. But then I'll also say too, there are some people who go to the I'm so sorry, y'all, go to the PWI and, dare I say, kind of get that Daniel Cameron effect going, right? Like, you become that token in like their fraternity, or that token in their sorority, or in whatever organization it is. And kind of like how the white girl did me in my story, where they make a comment that's disparaging of the whole, but it's positive towards you. So then you start to feel different, and you don't call them out on their BS as much, and then you start to adapt that, what we might call an Uncle Sam, but what I'm calling that Daniel Cameron mentality, and you forget, the community that you're supposed to be putting your knowledge back into, and the community that you're supposed to be putting your energy back into. So I feel like that's one of the negative impacts that has hurt us when it comes to the PWI, because I mean, a lot of the systems in the world are ran by white people. And so you feel like if you have one good white friend or two good white people, that you'll be successful in life, or this is who you need to be around in order to be successful. And I feel like the PWI does foster that mentality, depending on which one you go to. Because I don't think ours foster that. Like, Meagan hinted at it, but so yeah.
Yeah. All right, Meagan. So how do you feel? Do you feel like it has helped or hurt the Black community to go to a PWI?
I'm gonna just keep it simple with y'all. I feel like you gotta know the game to win it. At the end of the day, all kind of people in the world, I think it helps us. There's no one that I can't work with, and I feel like I know how to essentially, what's the popular word, y'all? Manifest. No, manifest isn't the word I'm looking for. I feel like essentially you go in there, you make it what you make it, you're gonna come out better. You just gotta know how to navigate the world with all kinds of people. And I think that it is helpful, to be in that environment with maybe some people who don't look like you for 4 years. So you can kind of learn how to maneuver the rest of your life. That's just my feelings on it. I definitely feel like it helped me.
Yeah. Well, ladies, the last piece of this topic is simply, is there still a need for HBCUs? I think Jordan has a couple valid points that she can bring out, being that she did go to an HBCU after the PWI for undergrad. So, Jordan, is there anything that you want to say real quick about the need for HBCUs?
I guess I'll keep it quick. But of course, there's still a need for HBCUs. There will forever be a need for HBCUs. And affirmative action. If we go on that far too, there will always be a need to place a priority on the Black experience in America. A few of the things that I did, mention or did want to say is that sense of community and togetherness. I feel like even Meagan can attest to this as someone who was just around a local HBCU, or if you're the offspring of an HBCU grad, you know what I'm talking about when I say that school spirit, being a part of the lineage, being a part of that community, and just the way the entire community rallies around that HBCU, that local HBCU school. I don't care. There could be, and I will name drop schools for this purpose, there could be all the Auburns, all the Alabamas in the world, but it's nothing like going to your HBCU, for Turkey Day Classic. And for those who know what I'm talking about, y'all know what I'm talking about. They don't do it no more, but y'all know. And Bayou Classic, you know what I'm talking about. So I mean, even, like the little, well, I won't get into a Magic City Classic, but for my Alabama people, So it's just nothing like that, all the Iron Bowls in the world. Anyway, so, and then also too, one thing I do just want to just mention on the light side is the fashion. I know this might pique Dice's interest, but I had a couple friends who did go to HBCUs the same time I was in undergrad. And I just love the way that they explained the fashion that people had going to class every day. And as someone who did go to a HBCU for law school. I went to HBCU for law school, but our building was on the campus of the undergrad. We did get to see the undergraduate students, and they had this thing called Pretty Wednesdays, not naming schools, but I'm sure y'all know who I'm talking about. And baby, everybody used to dress up for Pretty Wednesdays. You didn't know if it was the club, president was coming, black tie. You didn't know what was going on. You just know everybody was suited and booted. And so the fashion and the inspiration that you get at a HBCU, I think that's also just impeccable, unparalleled, and you just don't know it till you know it. And I'm pretty sure y'all have seen, as far as our listeners go, people talk about the memes of the fashion at HBCU homecomings. Like, y'all, the fashion never dies. When a bunch of Black people congregate and get together and say, we finna show out. Like, we finna step on them when we step on them. But at the end of the day, HBCUs do, do have their own issues, and I feel like people, like the faculty and the staff, that's one thing I will say from my personal experience. They may not always be quite as helpful. They may not always be quite as helpful. So even though I love HBCUs, I love my HBCU experience, wouldn't trade it for Nathaniel in this world. I do feel like HBCUs do still have some progression. We obviously still have some advancements to make, but obviously I'm an advocate for HBCUs. If you have not noticed, at some point as a Black person in your educational career, if you can, I highly, highly, highly advise that you go to a HBCU, because the connections that you make in the community that you get, it's just nothing like it. And I can never do it justice.
What
All
about you, Day?
right. No, I don't have anything really to say. I feel like Jordan wrapped it up pretty quick, and it's time for us to get to the news segment. Meagan, if you had anything you wanted to add really quickly, you can do that. But
I was just gonna say, side note, because this happens a lot. I will say, I'm also team HBCUs. I would never want to see any more of them close or anything like that. At the end of the day, I love my Black people. I just wanted to throw in a little tidbit. You know, I think that as people, we also have to do better. Like, there's a lot of shame about, like, or if you a Black person chose a PWI, though you don't have the same sense of like Black pride or whatever. I just was gonna throw that tidbit in there about, like, that's another thing that I think, just all in all, go to the school for you, and uplift each other no matter what someone chooses to do. Because I don't know if y'all have heard that a lot, but I hear that a lot. Like, there are a lot of people who feel like,
yeah,
oh, y'all ain't really for us. Y'all went to a PWI, and that's not what that means. That, some people have to go to the place that's best for them. But just because I didn't go to HBCU doesn't mean I don't love the HBCUs. And I know there are a lot of people who feel that way. We have a couple of we have one line sister in particularly. I know me and her could talk about that like all day long, because she gets so frustrated when she hears people say that. But yeah, I just was gonna throw that in. Y'all try to uplift your fellow Black people who may not be able to go to an HBCU. They still for the culture.
yeah, no, I don't think, personally, I don't think that has an impact on it. I think at the end of the day, like you said, you go to the best school for you. I think, as Black people, we just have to learn to not divide ourselves by every little thing. We already got enough of the division as it is. I don't think we need to add in what school you did or did not go to as another factor to divide ourselves. So, nevertheless, hopefully HBCUs stick around. I don't know the likelihood, but I think overall we had like a really good discussion for you guys on that. And I would love to see you guys tell us your thoughts. You can always DM us on Instagram at NYABGPOD and let us know what you thought about it, or comment on a post. Do something, y'all. Shake up our Instagram.
Yes,
Jesus.
let's have discussion.
Let's have some interaction. Y'all low key kind of dry, and I don't really like it.
Ooh.
But anyway, still love y'all though. So let's get to the not your average news.
And
Okay.
Hey.
Okay, so not your average news. Naya Rivera's sister, Nikayla, was spotted with Naya's ex-husband, also baby daddy, holding hands. And the rumor is that they are living together. And she never really came out and addressed if it was anything like, I don't know how to put it, y'all. She did make a post, but she didn't really say like, yeah, we're together, yeah, we're not. She basically was saying something like, oh, everybody needs to be comforted at this time, and family, and da 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 da. Like, basically trying to make it sound like she was like, I'm just trying to be here for my nephew or whatever. I don't care. Nobody says. It sounds suspect to me.
Didn't he make a video about it? I didn't watch it, but I saw that Shade Room posted it or something like that.
Oh no, I didn't see that one. That's news to me. So there might be a new update out there, y'all. I'm not sure, but either way, I just think it's inappropriate. Maybe there's something I don't know or I don't understand, but I'll be doggone if hopefully not. But if I were to pass away and my sister's up here holding hands with my man, I'm sorry, but no. Ain't nothing wrong with y'all comforting each other, but there's other forms of comfort that are more appropriate. But to each his own, I guess. The next piece of news is Master P, aka Percy Miller, has broken into the food industry and has come up with a children's cereal called Uncle P's Hootie Hoos. So if you guys want to support Master P and this cereal, you can go to Uncle P Cereal on IG or visit unclepcereal.com.
Hootie
What kind of
who?
cereal is it? What
Hootie
kind of cereal
who?
is it?
First of all, he got different flavors. I know some are like fruitier flavors. I think another one is kind of like a cinnamon type flavor. I don't remember the names right now, but I just want to say that Master P, he really, really tries to like rep for his culture, rep for
He
his
better
city.
I
have
love
7
it. I
strings.
love it.
Yes, that man makes sure he got some kind of business out here. So I believe the cereals are in like Save a Lot or Aldi or both. So just as a reference in case y'all want to go try it. I low key do want to go try it.
He better have 7 streams of income. Come on for the
That man
hootie
ain't playing with
hoo.
y'all.
I'm here for
Uh
it.
The next piece of news is Jeffree Star's boyfriend, Andre Marhold, which we have covered this story in a previous episode. He allegedly stole from Jeffree Star and is not returning Jeffree's phone calls. And I did watch a little bit about this from Jeffree Star's perspective. And he basically was just saying, like, these things are replaceable because I guess when you're rich, it don't matter. He was like, but he would still like to get his stuff back, but they're replaceable, and he just wants the man to pick up the phone. But he does suspect that Marhold was holding money and using him for money or whatever. But nevertheless, that's that. Okay. So moving right along into more pressing matters. California has passed a law to consider reparations for slavery. So, this is a huge deal because this is the first of its kind. Governor Newsom has signed 2 bills that will target structural racism and bias in California's legal system by prohibiting the use of race, ethnicity, and national origin to see, I'm sorry, I'm reading this, y'all, to see or obtain convictions or impose sentences, and to reduce discriminatory practices in the jury selection process. So I wanted to read that verbatim because I wanted y'all to know exactly what it was covering. Also, it is unclear what the reparations will be, but there will be a task force assigned to discuss it. So, obviously this law is the first of its kind. So I do expect there to be some, hurdles with it. And, maybe Jordan can have a better insight into how some of this stuff works. But nevertheless,
When the
I do think
check's
it's good that
coming. That's what the people want to know. When
Yeah,
the
yeah.
check's
Because
coming.
when I hear reparations, I'm thinking 40 acres and a mule and a check or two. You know what I'm saying? But when I read this is just sounding like our constitutional right to due process. I mean, fair due process. That's what it sounds like to me. And he's just trying to ensure that it's actually affected fairly and, as unbiased as it should be already. So he's just trying to take out some of that systemic, I was going to say systematic, but systemic racism that's been, put in place. He's just trying to reduce that. But I say California don't stop till y'all get some affirmative action around there. Okay. Affirmative action
Get
is what
y'all a
we
house.
want. We want affirmative action. Okay.
Get y'all a
And that's
house
all I'm going to
next to the Kardashians and don't
say.
stop until you
Don't
get it.
stop till you in Calabasas. Okay.
Yeah, hopefully it does lead to something substantial. I know that I would be surprised if they got money only because I have found a lot of people who are on the other side of the coin are not fans of giving money or quote unquote welfare because they swear that Black people are the leeches on the system, which is definitely not
Girl,
true.
I just be
Meanwhile, our
wanting to
president
pull the
paid what
number.
$750 in federal income taxes, but we're leeching on the okay.
Yeah.
Also, what's so funny about this is let Mike Pence tell it, and there's no such thing as implicit bias. Child was rolling when I was watching the debate. I said, this man is so delusional. I cannot.
See, I'm glad I held my comment to myself because you're right. I don't know who all is listening. But all I can say is when you've benefited from privilege for so long that you now have the chance to be willfully blind to it, that is what I'm getting from that statement. But then also, too, why would you want to change a system that's benefiting you? That's also what that statement was giving me from what you just
Mm-hmm.
said. So,
Oh,
okay.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll just see how that plays out.
Mm-hmm.
All right, y'all. So last piece of news that again is just the gift that keeps on giving is Tory Lanez. Tory Lanez has been charged with felony assault in Meagan Thee Stallion's shooting. So according to TMZ, the LA County's DA office charged him with one felony count each of assault with a semi-automatic firearm, personal use of a firearm, and carrying a loaded, unregistered firearm in a vehicle.
All I'm going to say to this is that his daddy's name is Sunstar. That's all I'm going to say. His name is Daystar. His daddy's name is Sunstar. I did not know that. It gave me
That's
very
his
much.
name for real.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, his name for real is
Tori's
Daystar.
real name is Daystar Peterson.
No,
and his daddy,
I knew that. I'm talking about the daddy.
Sunstar. And it gave me very much Goku Gohan vibes for all my Dragon Ball Z fans out there. And that's all I'm going to say to this. That's all I got.
You know, as Black people can get real creative with some names. That is one thing we know how to do. And maybe the name for them has some sort of significance, but to get back on track. Yes, so we'll see what happens with Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion. As y'all know, this story never seems to end. We never seem to get to the bottom of it, but he has been charged, so we'll see if it leads to anything. But y'all, that's about all the news I got. I don't know if Jordan and Megan heard anything they want to add, but that's all I got.
Y'all know I've been kind of under a rock for a few weeks or so.
No.
Well, we are recording this on October 11th, y'all, and today is Dice's birthday. So when this episode comes out, y'all wish her a happy belated birthday in the comments on our IG page or shout her out on your story.
Happy birthday to you. Happy. Okay, let me stop. I don't know they got that, protected.
Oh yeah, copyright.
Let me stop. It was
Girl,
3
for
minutes.
real.
Y'all don't know what I was singing.
We don't have nobody's coin. Nevertheless, thanks you guys. We appreciate y'all. Definitely continue to support us as y'all have been doing. We love all of our listeners. And until next time, we'll see y'all.
Bye.